The shotgun cracked through the still Kentucky twilight, shattering the bottle on the fence post with a spray of glass that caught the dying sun like fleeting diamonds. My brother Jake hooped from the porch, his voice raw with that easy triumph all the Harlan boys chased. But I stood frozen, heart slamming not from the recoil but from the way Tommy Reed, our neighbor's kid, home from college on break, watched the dust settle, his flannel shirt clinging to his shoulders in the humid air, eyes locking on mine with a pull I couldn't name and sure as hell couldn't shake. "Your turn, Eli," Jake said, slapping the rifle into my hands. But all I could think was how Tommy's laugh lines crinkled just like they did in my dreams, and how one wrong glance might blow my whole damn world apart. That was the summer I turned 19. The summer sweat stuck to everything in Harlan County, Kentucky, where the air hung heavy with the scent of cut hay and unspoken sins. Our farm sat on the edge of town, a rambling two-story with peeling white paint and a yard full of rusted truck parts. My dad's idea of art. Dad, Big Harlan himself, had built it with his calloused hands after coming back from Nam with ghosts in his eyes and a temper that could level a barn. He raised us 4 boys to be men. Tough, straight shooting, the kind who fixed fences at dawn and chased skirts at the county fair without a second thought. Jake, the oldest at 25, was already married to his high school sweetheart, pumping out grandkids like it was his God-given duty. Then there was me, Eli, the quiet middle one, good with engines but bad with girls, always tinkering in the garage to avoid the Friday night bonfires where the talk turned to conquests I could never fake. Mom tried to soften the edges. She was the church lady, all floral dresses and Bible verses, baking peach cobbler that made the house smell like forgiveness. But even she had her limits, whispers about finding a nice girl at supper, her eyes flicking to me like I was a puzzle missing a piece. Little brothers Cal and Ben idolized Jake, roughhousing like colts, dreaming of football scholarships and fast cars. Me, I fixed the tractors, mended the roofs, and buried my secrets deeper than the coal seams running under our hills. Secrets like the way my pulse raced when Tommy Reed mowed our back 40, shirtless and glistening, his laugh carrying over the engine's roar like a siren's call. Tommy was 22, back from Vanderbilt on summer break, studying something fancy like environmental law, too smart for Harlan, everyone said. But he came home anyway, helping his folks like it was no big deal. It started small, that pull. A borrowed book on birds, Tommy's hobby, spotting warblers in the woods behind our properties, that he left on the porch swing with a note. "Figured you'd like this, gearhead. Eagles ain't the only ones who fly low." I read it under the covers with a flashlight, not the words so much as the slant of his handwriting, imagining his fingers on the pen. We'd known each other forever, neighbors since diapers, but college had sharpened him, filled out his frame, deepened his voice, turned boyish grins into something that lingered in your chest. He didn't know about me, not yet. Hell, half the time I convinced myself it was nothing, just the heat playing tricks, or envy for how easy the world bent to guys like him. But that evening after the shooting, as Jake and the others piled into the truck for beers at the roadhouse, Tommy lingered by the fence, wiping sweat from his brow with the hem of his shirt, flashing a strip of tan skin that made my mouth go dry. "You okay, Eli? Looked like you saw a ghost when that bottle blew." His voice was low, teasing, but his eyes held steady, like he was testing waters neither of us had mapped. I shrugged, forcing a laugh that came out brittle. "Just the kickback. Dad says it'll make a man out of me." He stepped closer, close enough I could smell the earth on him, mixed with soap and something sharper, like pine from the woods we used to roam. "You don't need a rifle for that," he said, and the words hung there, heavy as storm clouds, before he clapped my shoulder and walked away, leaving me with a handprint that burned through my shirt. Nights blurred after that. I'd lie awake in the room I shared with Cal, listening to crickets scream outside, replaying every brush of his arm at the general store, every shared glance over the breakfast table when his family came for coffee. Mom noticed, of course, moms always do. "You're mooning Elijah," she'd say, sliding a plate of eggs my way. "Ain't no girl worth losing sleep over." If only she knew. Church on Sundays was torture. Reverend Hayes thundering about Sodom from the pulpit, eyes sweeping the pews like he could smell sin on the wind. I'd stare at the stained glass, praying for straight lines in a world that curved wrong for me. But my thoughts always drifted back to Tommy, to the way his hair curled at the nape when he bent to tie his boots. One sticky July afternoon, the storm broke. Literally. Thunderheads rolled in from the west, turning the sky bruise purple, and Dad hollered for us to secure the barn before the rain hit. I was wrestling tarps over the hay bales when Tommy appeared, uninvited but welcome as breath, his truck kicking up gravel. Saw the clouds from the ridge. Figured you Harlans could use an extra hand. We worked side by side, ropes slick in our palms, lightning cracking close enough to raise the hairs on my arms. He bumped my elbow on purpose, grinning through the downpour that started sudden and fierce. Remember when we built that fort in the Oaks? Thought we'd outrun any storm. I nodded, throat tight, because that fort was where I'd first felt it. The brush of his knee against mine in the dark, a secret I'd chalked up to kid stuff. By the time the rain eased to a drizzle, we were soaked, laughing like fools as we dashed for the old shed behind the barn, the one Dad used for tools. It smelled of oil and damp wood, a sanctuary from the world. We collapsed against hay bales, chests heaving, water dripping from our lashes. Tommy shook his head like a dog, spraying me, and I shoved him back, the contact electric. "Truce," he gasped, but his hand stayed on my arm, thumb tracing a lazy circle that sent fire through my veins. The air thickened, charged like the sky outside, and he didn't pull away. "Eli," he said, voice rough, "you ever feel like you're carrying something you can't put down?" My heart thundered. I wanted to say yes, to spill it all, the dreams, the fears, the way his name tasted on my tongue in the dark. But fear clamped my jaw shut. Instead, I muttered, "All the time," and he nodded, like that was enough. His forehead resting against mine for a beat too long, breaths mingling in the dim light. That moment cracked me open. For weeks after, we stole time like thieves. Fixing the creek bridge at dawn, his fingers brushing mine over a wrench. Late-night drives in his beat-up Chevy, radio low with Springsteen crooning about highways and broken hearts. His arms slung casual over the seatback, knuckles grazing my neck. Harlan slept, oblivious. But I was alive in a way I'd never known. Colors sharper, air sweeter. Every glance from him a spark to dry tinder. He talked dreams. Leaving for good after graduation, fighting for clean rivers in D.C., the kind of life that scared me spitless because what place did a Harlan boy have in that world? I'd nod, stealing sips of his Coke, memorizing the freckles across his nose. But secrets fester in small towns. Jake caught us once, laughing too hard over a botched carburetor in the garage, and his brow furrowed. "What's with you and Tommy Reed lately? Acting like schoolgirls." I brushed it off, "Just buddies, man." But the seed was planted. Mom's eyes lingered longer at supper. Dad's silences grew heavier. And Tommy? He pulled back just a hair, canceled a fishing trip, blamed schoolwork. Panic clawed at me. Was it me? Had I said too much in that shed? Leaned too close? I cornered him at the feed store, voice low behind the sacks of grain. Did I do something wrong? He looked wrecked, jaw tight. "Nah, Eli. It's just complicated. Folks talk." But his hand squeezed mine quick, hidden, and that was oxygen. Fall crept in, leaves turning the hills to fire, and with it came the county fair, Harlan's heartbeat, all cotton candy and tractor pulls, where boys became men under the midway lights. Tommy and I went together, not as dates but close enough to fool no one who cared to look. We rode the Ferris wheel at dusk, the pod swaying gentle as we crested the top, town sprawling below like a postcard. His knee pressed mine, deliberate now, and when he turned, eyes dark with something fierce, he whispered, "I can't stop thinking about you." My world tilted. I kissed him then, soft, tentative, tasting salt and possibility. As the lights blurred into stars, it was everything. Terror and joy tangled, his hand cupping my face like I was fragile, precious. We broke apart gasping, foreheads together, and he laughed, shaky. "God, Eli, what are we doing?" What we were doing was dancing on a knife's edge. For a stolen month, it was paradise. Notes slipped into truck visors, walks in the woods where hands linked without shame, whispered promises under quilted stars. He told me first, "I'm gay, Eli. Have been since I figured out why the locker room showers made me dizzy." Relief flooded me. I confessed in return, words tumbling like rocks down a hill. We were us, finally, two boys from the same dirt road rewriting the rules. But paradise in Harlan? It was borrowed time. The betrayal came swift as a winter gale. Jake found the note. Tommy's scrawl in my jacket pocket. Simple as meet at the bridge. Can't wait. T. He confronted me in the barn at midnight, fists clenched, face twisted like I'd shamed the bloodline. "What the hell, Eli? Tommy Reed? A man?" His voice cracked on the word, disgust warring with confusion. I stood tall, chin up, but inside I was crumbling. "It's not what you think. It's love, Jake. Real as yours with Sarah." He recoiled, spitting. "Love? That's sickness, boy. Dad'll kill you both." He stormed out, but not before the damage spread. Whispers at the diner, sidelong glares from neighbors, Mom's tears at breakfast she tried to hide behind him's. Tommy held me through it, fierce as a storm. "We'll run," he said one night by the creek. Arms wrapped tight around me as frogs chorused our fears away. "After I graduate, DC or California, somewhere they don't hang you for breathing different." I clung to that, to him, dreaming of diners with rainbow flags and streets where hands could link in daylight. But doubt gnawed. What about family? The farm? The Harlan name Dad bled for? And then, the knife twisted deeper. Tommy's dad, old Mr. Reed, cornered him at home, Bible in hand, ranting about hellfire and fixing what the devil broke. Tommy didn't tell me, not at first, but I saw the shadows under his eyes, the way he flinched at loud voices. Winter hit hard, snow blanketing the hills like a shroud. Christmas was a farce. Forced smiles over turkey. Jake's cold shoulder a wall between us. Dad's questions about trouble at the fair hanging unanswered. Mom pulled me aside in the kitchen, flour-dusted hands trembling. "Elijah, whatever storm you're in, Jesus calms it. But you gotta fight the devil inside." Her love was a lifeline, but laced with chains. I wanted to scream. I wasn't fighting. I was falling deeper every day. Tommy and I met in secret still. The old fort our refuge, now patched with stolen blankets. One night, as sleet lashed the tin roof, he broke. "My folks know, Eli. Dad wants me gone. Says Vanderbilt's the cure. Surround me with real influences." His voice hollowed, and I pulled him close, kissing the hurt away, but it lingered like frost. "We'll make it," I whispered, fierce. "Together." He nodded, but his eyes were far, planning escapes I couldn't follow yet. Spring thawed the ground, but not the rift. Jake cornered Tommy at the hardware store. Words I didn't hear, but the aftermath painted clear. Tommy showed up at my window that night, lips split, eyes wild. He warned me off, said if I didn't stop, he'd tell everyone. Ruin us both. Rage boiled in me, hot and helpless. I wanted to fight, to claim what was mine, but Tommy held me back. "Don't. It'll break your family." Break us, he meant. The conflict tore at seams. Loyalty to blood versus the beat of my heart. The boy who saw me whole when mirrors lied. Climax brewed in June heat. Fair season again, but this time with venom. Dad called a family meeting in the living room, Jake's doing. His face stone as he laid it out. Rumors, shame, the Harlan name dragged through mud. One of my boys tangled with unnatural ways. His eyes bored into me, and I stood, voice steady for the first time. "It's me, Dad, and Tommy. We're in love." The room exploded. Jake's curses, Mom's sobs, Dad's fist slamming the table so hard the lamps rattled. "Out!" he roared. "Ain't no room for that here." I grabbed my keys, storming into the night, heart shattering like that long-ago bottle. Tommy waited at the bridge, truck idling, face pale in the headlights. "Eli," but I cut him off, pulling him into a kiss desperate and deep, tasting tears, mine his ours. We drove through the dark. No plan, just the road unspooling like fate. Dawn found us at a motel off I-64, cheap coffee burning our throats as we mapped futures. Him to Vanderbilt for one last semester, me scraping for a mechanic job in Lexington, visits stolen on weekends. Betrayal stung. Jake's warning a scar, but it forged us stronger. Two halves mended in fire. Months blurred into a rhythm. Late-night calls where his voice was my anchor. Weekends tangled in anonymous sheets. Learning each other's contours not with lust but reverence. Hands tracing stories on skin. Harlan faded. A ghost town in rear view, but family pulled. Mom's letters, soft with pleas and pride twisted. Dad's silence a wound that scabbed slow. Jake? He showed up once, unannounced at my dingy apartment. Eyes red-rimmed. Didn't mean to break you, little brother. Just scared. We talked till dawn. Not fixed but fractured less. Seeds of understanding planted in awkward ground. 2 years on, Tommy graduated, top of his class, ribbon for advocacy on queer rights in the South. I drove down, suit borrowed and starched, cheering louder than anyone as he crossed that stage. We moved to D.C. that summer. A tiny row house in DuPont Circle where rainbows flew proud and neighbors nodded without judgment. He fights for rivers now, suits sharp, passion fiercer. I wrench on hybrids in a shop that pays enough for dreams. We argue over dishes, laugh at bad takeout, build a life stitch by quiet stitch. It's not perfect. No fairy tale bow, scars ache on rainy days, calls home laced with ache. But in the evenings, as the city hums beyond our stoop, Tommy pulls me close on the couch, head on my shoulder, and whispers, "Worth every storm," and I know it's true. In America, where hearts beat different rhythms under the same flag, we found ours. Steady, synced. A song the boys back home might never hear, but one we'll hum forever. Human, messy ours. The weight of that kiss on the Ferris will linger like smoke, curling through every stolen moment that followed. Harlan's summer stretched lazy and unforgiving, but for Tommy and me, it was a canvas we painted in hurried strokes. Dawn runs along the creek where our fingers brushed accidental on purpose, evenings in his truck with the windows fogged from breath and secrets. He played guitar sometimes, soft chords under stars that felt close enough to touch, singing Dylan tunes with a voice that rasped like gravel under tires. I'd lean against him, head on his thigh, and let the world shrink to that bench seat, where normal was just a word for other people. But normal was Harlan's religion. The town square buzzed with harvest festivals and Friday lights, where dads like mine swapped war stories and sons like Jake bragged about bass caught or girls charmed. I dodged it all, volunteering for extra shifts at the garage. Grease under my nails a better alibi than truth. Tommy understood without words. He'd slip in after hours, handing me a thermos of sweet tea, sitting cross-legged on the concrete as I tuned carburetors. "Tell me about the city," I'd say, because his stories were lifelines. DC marches for clean water, professors who quoted Whitman like scripture, a world where a man could love who he chose without the sky falling. One night, as cicadas screamed their swan song, we drove to the ridge overlooking the valley, truck bed lined with quilts stolen from his mom's linen closet. Fireflies danced like living lanterns, and we lay there, hands linked over the tailgate, watching the lights of town wink below. "What if we never leave?" I asked, voice small against the vastness. He turned, propping on an elbow, moonlight carving shadows on his jaw. "We will, but not yet. This us. It's worth the wait." His kiss was slow then, exploratory, mapping me like territory he claimed with care. No rush, no fire, just depth, the kind that sinks into bones and stays. We talked till the air chilled. Fears of Dad's belt, Mom's prayers, the draft board letters Jake burned in the trash because real men enlist. Tommy shared his own ghosts, being jumped in Nashville his freshman year, the bruise that healed but the caution didn't. Fall painted the hills gold and crimson, school buses rumbling back to life. But for us, it was a fragile truce. Tommy buried in textbooks, prepping for midterms. Me, knee-deep in harvest repairs, tractors groaning under full loads. We texted on burners, old flip phones Dad wouldn't question. Cryptic notes like "Eagle sighted at 7, for meets at the bridge." It thrilled and terrified, this double life. But every glance across church pews, every shared pewter at the diner, was a victory. Mom baked us pies for the boys. Her smile tight, sensing currents she couldn't name. Jake grilled me harder. You seeing someone? Smellin' like cologne that ain't yours. I'd laugh it off, but sweat beaded cold. The first real fracture came mid-October, leaves crunching underfoot like brittle bones. Tommy's truck wouldn't start after a rain-soaked study session. I towed him home, headlights cutting the fog. His dad waited on the porch, shotgun casual across his lap. Not loaded, but the message clear. Appreciate the help, Eli, he drawled, eyes hard as flint. But Tommy's got his path. Best stick to yours. I nodded, mute. But as I hooked the chain, Tommy slipped out, whispering, ignore him. He's just old ways. But old ways were Harlan's veins, pumping judgment through every vein. We pushed on, defiant in whispers. Halloween brought a bonfire at the old quarry. Town kids in masks and mischief. But Tommy and I hung back, nursing beers by the flames. Jake stumbled over, arm around a girl with too much makeup, slurring, where's your date, Eli? Or you waitin' for Reed to play night? Laughter rippled, cruel-edged, and something snapped. I stood, chest to chest. Mind your own, brother. He shoved, play rough, but his eyes searched mine, hunting secrets. Tommy pulled me away before fists flew, but the seed sprouted. Jake tailing me home, questions turning accusations. November chilled the air, Thanksgiving looming like a noose. Family dinners were minefields. Dad's toasts to straight arrows. Mom's grace over turkey laced with pleas for unity. I excused myself early, meeting Tommy at the fort, where we huddled under tarps, sharing a flask of his dad's bourbon. Jake knows. I confessed, the words bitter. Tommy's face fell, but he cupped my cheek. Then we tell them. Together. Bravery sparked, but fear doused it quick. Visions of disownment, of Tommy shipped off to conversion camps preachers whispered about. The note Jake found was innocent. A scrap from Tommy. Bridge. Midnight. Bring the stars. Tucked in my work boot. Forgotten. He waved it like a flag of surrender at dawn, bursting into the kitchen as Mom flipped pancakes. What is this shit, Eli? Dad snatched it, reading slow, face darkening to thunder. Mom gasped, hand to throat. I froze, fork midway, world narrowing to that paper. It's nothing. I lied. But Jake snarled, liar. Tommy's poison. Dad, we gotta stop this. The argument erupted, voices clashing like cymbals, Dad bellowing for truth. I bolted, boots slipping on wet grass, straight to Tommy's door. He answered pale, sensing doom. They know. We clung in his room, posters of eagles mocking our fall, planning frantic escapes. Pack light, head north, start over. But dawn brought reality. Dad's truck in the drive, engine rumbling threat. Tommy's dad joined the fray, pulling him aside for a talk that left bruises blooming purple. Betrayal layered. Jake's loyalty twisted to zeal, families colliding like storm fronts. We met once more that week, in the garage's gloom, his lips swollen, my knuckles raw from punching shadows. I love you, he said, fierce. That doesn't change. But everything did. Glances avoided, text silenced, Harlan closing like a fist. Winter's grip tightened, snow muffling the world's roar but amplifying ours. Christmas lights twinkled defiant in frosted windows, but our home felt hollow. Jake's glares across the tree, Dad's silences heavier than the ham on the table, Mom's carols cracking on high notes. She cornered me in the attic one eve, amid dusty boxes of baby clothes, eyes wet. Elijah, talk to me. This darkness, it's eating you. I wanted to, God, how I ached to lay it bare. But fear chained the words. Just growing up, Ma. She hugged me fierce, smelling of pine and vanilla, whispering, the Lord's got a plan, even for broken things. Broken. The word stung because with Tommy, I'd felt whole. He fared worse, holed up studying, his dad patrolling like a warden. We communicated in code, Books left on the porch with pressed leaves marking pages of coded hope. The river bends but doesn't break. Stealing moments became art. A brush in the aisles at Walmart. His whisper, "Miss you," hot against my ear. January brought ice storms, roads glazed, trapping us apart, but also opportunity. Dad sent me to check the reeds pipes, burst from the freeze. Tommy met me in the basement, tools forgotten as we crashed together, kisses urgent, hands mapping hurt away. They want me to transfer. Some Bible college in Tennessee, he gasped, forehead to mine. Rage surged. I vowed to fight, but he shushed me. One more semester, then freedom. Spring teased with crocuses pushing through snow, but conflict simmered. Jake ambushed Tommy at the post office, words venomous. "Stay away from my brother, freak, or I'll make sure Vanderbilt hears." Tommy told me later, over stolen coffee in his truck, voice steady but eyes shattered. "He thinks he's saving you." Saving from what? Joy? The boy who made sunrises bearable? I confronted Jake that night. In the barn's chill, hay bales our ring. "You don't get to decide my heart." He laughed bitter. "Heart? This confusion, Eli. Get help before Dad buries you." Fists flew then. Mine glancing his jaw, his pinning me to the wall, breath ragged. "I love him," I spat. He released me, horrified. "Then you're lost." Mom became our quiet ally, unwittingly. She invited Tommy for Sunday supper, for old times. And under the table, his boot nudged mine, a lifeline in the storm. Dad grilled him on classes, oblivious, but Jake seethed silent. After, as dishes clattered, Mom pulled Tommy aside. "You boys, be kind to each other." Her words, vague but warm, cracked something in him. He confessed later, tears hot on my neck. "She knows. Sees us." Hope flickered, fragile as moth wings. But climax brewed in May's bloom, from season-stirring Harlan's youth to frenzy. Tommy, home for break, suggested we go, not as dates but rebels in plain sight. I balked. Too risky, but he grinned that grin, the one that melted resolve. "Wear the blue tie. It'll match my eyes." We did, slipping in late to the gym draped in streamers, punch bowls glowing under disco lights. Danced awkward at the edges, hands on shoulders like bros, but eyes locked promises. Jake spotted us, face twisting, but a girl pulled him away, leaving venom unspoken. The blow fell post-dance at the after-party bonfire. Booze flowed loose, tongues too, and some drunk jocks slurred slurs about Tommy's city friends. Jake, 3 beers deep, exploded. "Shut it, he's clean. Unlike my brother." Chasing shadows. The circle hushed, eyes on me as Jake spilled it all, notes, glances, the sickness. Laughter erupted, cruel, and Tommy surged forward, shoving Jake back. "Enough. It's love, you bastard. Not your poison." Chaos. Fists, shouts, flames leaping shadows on horrified faces. I pulled Tommy off, blood on his knuckles, my shirt torn, as cops' sirens wailed distant. Dad hauled us home in the squad car, separate, silent rides that stretched eternal. He waited on the porch, face carved granite, belt in hand. "Inside," he growled, and the reckoning began. Jake unrepentant, spilling details like accusations. Mom weeping in the corner, clutching her rosary. "Elijah," Dad thundered, "is this true? You and that boy, defying God family?" Voice broke on the last, not anger but grief. I stood tall, Tommy's blood under my nails a badge. "Yes, and I'd do it again. He's my heart, Dad." The belt cracked. Once, twice, pain blooming hot, but I didn't cry. Mom intervened, shielding me, her sobs the real lash. "Harlan, stop. He's our boy." Tommy's fate mirrored. His dad, drunk on righteousness, packed his bags that night. Out by morning or I call the dean. He crashed at a cousin's in town, calls frantic. "Eli, meet me at the bridge. We leave now." But Dawn pinned me. Dad's ultimatum, choose, family or that perversion. Mom pleaded, "Give it time, son. Pray it away." Jake, shamefaced, muttered, I did it for us. Betrayal's full weight crushed. Not just Jake's mouth, but the town's echo, whispers turning to shouts, job offers drying like creek beds. We met at dusk, bridge creaking under our weight, bags slung hasty. California? He asked, voice cracking. Or DC? I kissed him fierce, tasting copper and resolve. Anywhere but here. Engine roared to life, taillights fading into twilight, Harlan shrinking to a bruise on the horizon. Betrayal scarred, but in the dash. Interstate humming, radio crooning redemption songs. We forged ahead, two souls lashed against the gale. The road unspooled north, a black ribbon under sodium lights, motels blurring into one another. Neon signs promising rest we couldn't claim. Tommy drove first, knuckles white on the wheel, Vanderbilt stickers peeling from the dash like shed skins. We'll laugh about this someday, he said, forcing brightness, but his laugh cracked hollow. I nodded, hand on his thigh, anchor in the storm. We talked little at first, shock's numb embrace, but words came slow, like thawing rivers. Jake's face in the firelight, Dad's belt whip crack, Mom's rosary beads clicking like accusations. Betrayal wasn't just the outing. It was the fracture, the way love turned weapon in familiar hands. First stop. A no-tell in Ohio, room smelling of smoke and regret. We collapsed on the sagging bed, not for passion but solace. Bodies entwined, breaths sinking to heal what words couldn't. I should have fought harder, I murmured into his hair. He shushed me, fingers tracing my welted back. You did. We both did. Morning brought coffee black as our moods. Maps spread on the hood. DC for him, job hunts for me. Calls home? None yet, radio silence a mercy. Lexington became base camp, a cramped apartment above a laundromat. Rent split from his savings and my grease monkey gigs. Days blurred. Him buried in online classes, fighting admin for credits. Me under hoods at a Ford dealer, hands black but mind free. Nights were ours. Cooking spaghetti from cans, dancing slow to Coltrane on a thrift store turntable, building normal from scraps. Romance bloomed quiet. Notes in lunch bags, you're my compass. Picnics in parks where old men played chess. No stairs, just space to breathe. But ghosts trailed. A letter from Mom arrived in June, postmarked Harlan. Script trembling. We pray for you, Elijah. Doors open if you repent. Love, despite all. Despite. The word gutted. Tommy read it aloud, voice steady, then burned it in the sink, ashes swirling like our doubts. Jake called once, voice gruff over static. Eli? Dad's. Not good. Heart acting up. Come home. Trap or truth? I hung up, chest tight, but Tommy pulled me close. Your choice, but I'm here. Choice, first real one, unyoked from blood. Summer scorched, DC beckoning. Tommy landed an internship, queer advocacy group, suits and strategy sessions that lit him electric. I tagged along weekends, metro rattling to protests where signs read, Love wins. Crowds chanting like revival. First march. Pride. Rain-slick streets thrumming rainbow. His hand in mine public. Proud. Tears stung as confetti rained. This was America too. Not just Harlan's shadows, but light's fierce claim. We marched for boys like us, past chapters, and in a DuPont bar after, toasting with cheap champagne, he proposed, not rings but promise. Build with me, Eli. Not despite, but because. Fall anchored us. His grad school acceptance, my certification for electric vehicles, future-proof like us. But conflict resurfaced, sly as kudzu. A Harlan cousin emailed photos. Dad in hospital, tubes snaking, eyes hollow. Guilt gnawed. I flew back alone. Tommy's go heel echoing. Airport to farm. Distance warp time, hills unchanged but me alien. Mom hugged fierce at the gate. Dad mumbled from bed. Boy, glad you came. No sermons, just silence thick with unsaid. Jake hovered awkward. Sorry, don't fix it. But, meant well. We talked halting. His fears of Dad's legacy crumbling. My truth a mirror he dodged. No absolution, but thaw. A shared beer on the porch, stars winking forgiveness. Back in D.C., Tommy waited with pie, Mom's recipe, pilfered from memory. "How bad?" he asked, slicing. "Bad, but breathing." We cried then, tangled on the floor, relief and rage mingling. Betrayal's echo faded, not gone but softened, humanistic in its mess. Families flawed, love's work eternal. Climax crested that winter. Dad's call, "Come home, son, for good." Ultimatum veiled in frailty, repent or lose him forever. Tommy and I waited nights, maps forgotten for what-ifs. "We can't go back," he said. But I saw the pull roots deep as coal veins. Decision crystallized in a snow globe D.C. Us shoveling walks for neighbors, laughter echoing. "We go, but on our terms," I said. Road trip home. Not flight, but reclaim, his hand in mine over state lines. Harlan greeted wary, townies nodding cautious, whispers hushed. Dad mended slow, bed to chair, eyes appraising as we sat vigil. Mom cooked feasts, Tommy included tentative. Neighbor boy always welcome. Jake thawed slowest, a nod over coffee turning talk. Saw a rally on TV. Looked right. No full bridge, but planks laid. Dad's confession came hushed. One dusk on the porch. After Nam thought I lost my soul. You're finding yours. Don't let go. Tears tracked his weathered cheeks. Mine too. Human frailty, not judgment. America's underbelly, tender. We stayed a month, mending fences literal and not. Me fixing the old truck. Tommy scouting birds with Dad. Unlikely kinship blooming. Departure ached, but lighter. Mom's quilt for our bed, Jake's handshake firm. Back north, life resumed amplified, his law firm offer, my shop promotion, a ring simple as our start. Romance deepened. Anniversaries with Springsteen tickets. Lazy Sundays tracing tattoos of eagles in flight. Ending isn't tidy, no villains vanquished, just growth's quiet grind. Harlan calls come weekly, voices warmer. Dad's letters ramble proud. Betrayal scarred, but scars tell stories. Of boys who dared different beats, finding harmony in discord. In this vast land, from Kentucky hollows to Capitol circles, love's the truest American dream. Resilient, romantic, relentlessly human.